Okay, so let's go back and look at some things that we've learned in the past. We want to take some extra time now to categorize the different skills that we've built up to this point. So first, let's consider functional group transformation. That is, if I were to ask you to move a bromine from here to here, how would you do it? Well, that's not a problem actually. We've got elimination and addition reactions at our disposal, right? If we choose the right elimination, we can get Zaitsev elimination, right, where it's the more substituted double bond. And then if we choose a Markovnikov addition, we can get, right, so we can put the bromine there, right, on that carbon because it's the more substituted carbon, right? Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. So now that we've decided that, we just go back in our memory banks and say to ourselves, what do we know? How do we know to do a Zaitsev elimination? If we do a big bulky base, right, then it's going to go to the Hoffman elimination. We learned that in chapter 7. If we do a small strong base here instead, we get the Zaitsev elimination, right? Now, we don't want to go backwards, but this is something we got in last chapter, where we got the anti-Markovnikov addition, put the bromine there, right? But we're really trying to go this direction. So now that we have this, we've got ourselves a Zaitsev elimination. Now that we've got that, if we add HBr in a Markovnikov fashion, we go here. If we want to go anti-Markovnikov, we're just going to end up back where we were, right? So I think you can see that what we're trying to do now is really consider the implications of all the functional group transformations that we've done up to this point. So let's say if we want to do it for an alcohol instead, excuse me, if we want to do it for an alcohol instead, then suppose I want to take my alcohol from here to here, right? In that case, we want the Zaitsev elimination. So first of all, we use tosyl chloride, and then we eliminate, right? We make it a good leaving group first, and then we eliminate with sodium ethoxide, right? And then we just add acid across there, right? Now, if we wanted to take this double bond and put it back in the last substituted position, we would simply use borane and THF and hydrogen peroxide and sulfur and sodium hydroxide. Excuse me, please. So if instead I wanted to put the alcohol here, right? So here's primary, here's tertiary, here's secondary, here's tertiary. But if I want to put it in the primary position instead, then I would first of all make a good leaving group with tosyl chloride. Then I would get a big bulky base, tert butoxide, and go for the Hoffman product, right? So there's my Hoffman product. And then, I can use my borane complex with THF to, and then follow that up with hydrogen peroxide and sodium hydroxide to go with the anti-Markovnikov addition, right? That's if I wanted to go there. All right, great practice. Now, what if we wanted to move double bonds? So here's a double bond. This is in the most substituted position. If I wanted to go to the least substituted position, then what I would do is I would use an addition to my bromine here, right? And then I would do a Hoffman elimination, right? That goes to the less substituted, right? So let's think about the ways we know to do that. Simply adding HBr puts the bromine in the more substituted position, and then a big bulky base gives us a Hoffman elimination. If we come from here and we go with a small strong base, then we're going to go back to the more substituted double bond, right? That's Zaitsev elimination. Zaitsev. Okay, this is spelled different ways in different textbooks, by the way. I think it's because it's a Russian name, and so I think there's no literal translation to English. So, all right, does that make sense? So again, if we want to put the bromine to here instead of to here, we want to go to the less substituted position, then we'll use radical bromination with HBr. All right, and that can move the double bond to a different position. So here's something that David Klein says. This is a comment straight out of his notes, and I totally agree with it. We have no chance to get this far unless we can easily recall all the possible reagents and reaction conditions first. There's just no way. It's impossible. So you really, Every hour you spend reviewing those reactions and understanding their implications is going to pay off in spades. I think the last thing I want to review before we move on to the next section is a two-step sequence for converting an alkane to an alkene, right? So we got an alkane. We know we can brominate this. There's no functionality here at all, right? We can't just do an elimination. We have to maybe make a leaving group on there before we can make an elimination. All right, so we can go from an alkane to an alkene by radical bromination, right? Remember that? That was with NBS and H nu. And then just simply eliminate. This gives us a Zaitsev product, so we would want to use a small strong base like sodium methoxide there. And then this is a figure that I showed you before. If we want to go from an alkyne to an alkene, we can do that with a poison catalyst. Or if we want to go all the way, we can do that with simply H2 and platinum or palladium. There's actually three metals that you have to be ready to use. Platinum, palladium, and I think cadmium is the other one. So we can go all the way there with H2 and platinum as long as we have excess H2, okay? Or we can go halfway, or if we're here, we can go simply one step, right? Now, if we want to go from an alkene to an alkyne, then we have to bromate it at first, right? And we have to do that we can't do that in water. It's got to be in carbon tetrachloride, or else if we do it in water, we'll get a halohydrin, right? So we brominate it, then we eliminate, and then we simply add water to that to reconstitute the protonated status, proton transfer. Right? If we want to go from an alkane to an alkene, we do like we did above. We add bromine with light. NBS is the most common way to do that, but you could say that also. And then we eliminate. All right. So functional group transformations. This is going to take a lot of practice. Hopefully that's helpful. And I encourage you to get your reactions out and start considering what kind of implications can come from the different reactions that you have available to you. Good luck.